In this video, I'm going to be cleaning my air conditioner condenser unit, mainly the coils. Before I get down to taking it apart and spraying with water, I do have some landscaping to do. You can see that the plant life is really growing in around the air conditioner, so I'm going to cut all the plant life back at least 1 foot away from the air conditioner condenser unit. One thing that I noticed is that all sides were not equally dirty. On this unit, I found the back and left-hand side were significantly more dirty than the front and right-hand side. I'm not sure if that'd be the case on all units, but at least on this one, the rear and left-hand side seem to have more air pull than the other two sides. So I'll just throw it into fast motion here while I cut back some of the hedges. Most of these plants could actually be just ripped out by hand. The reason it's important to keep the plant life away from your air conditioning condensing unit is because the air is pulled in through the sides of the unit and blown out the top of the unit. And if the plant life starts growing too close to the air conditioner condensing unit, it'll start choking out the airflow. So any plant life sticking around the sides is going to actually reduce the efficiency of the unit. So you can see I've cut everything back at least 1 foot from around the unit. I'm going to see if maybe get some additional gravel and put it around the air conditioner as well, just so things don't grow in as fast. Not very many tools are required. I've got the shop vac and a hose, no need for the pressure washer, and I have 2 clamps that I generally use for woodworking, but I will use them for this purpose here. And then to take things apart, I've got a flathead screwdriver. This is just water with a very small amount of dish soap in it. They do make specialty cleaners as well. The one thing you need to be careful with though is not using something that will actually damage the aluminum, like a product like CLR. So inside of the house, I turned the thermostat up so it wouldn't try to kick on. I've turned off the furnace. I've turned off the breaker for the air conditioner unit, and I'm going to pull out the disconnect switch from the disconnect box. So there's no way that this air conditioner will try to kick on when I start taking it apart. In this case, I'm just going to take the top off, which is holding the fan in as well, and I'm going to move that up and out of the way so that I can clean from the inside out. If you had a very dirty air conditioner condensing unit, you might actually have to take the sides off. And in my case even, it might have been a little bit easier to clean everything had the sides been off. Some fans may be able to pivot straight back. For this one, it was a little bit tight with the electrical wires, so I didn't want to disconnect those. So essentially, I'm just going to take the fan and pivot it to the right while trying not to put any additional strain on the electrical wires that go to the fan motor. And to hold it up, I'm just using those clamps. A little rickety, but it did the job. And you can see the back is very dirty, completely covered with dust and debris, as well as that one left-hand side. I think it's just the way the fan pulls the air, and it just has a tendency to pull harder from the left and rear of the unit than it does the front and right-hand side. To get all the leaves and grime up, obvious, I'm just using the shop vac to get all the debris from around the compressor. And the compressor is that black thing in the center. Okay, with the bottom cleaned out, I'm just going to put a garbage bag over the opening that goes to all the electrical components so that those stay relatively dry. As I said, they do make some spray foam applications for this that are actually pretty cheap. They're like $10 per can, and that's in Canada, so it's probably about $7 or $8 in the States. I'm just using some soap and water, and it seems to do an adequate job. The one word of caution, I would definitely avoid anything that could damage aluminum or copper, since there's a lot of aluminum and copper materials in this thing, so just be cognizant of that. I don't think it's essential that you clean from the inside and spray outward. However, it will prevent you from trying to force all the dirt and grime that's on the outside of the unit through all the cooling fins and then out the bottom. It just makes a lot more sense, at least in my mind, to spray from the inside out. And then once all the heavy debris is off the side, you can then spray from outside in just to make sure everything's cleared up. So a bit of a close-up there. You can see it sort of coming off in sheets, but it was definitely fully covered with a layer of grime. There's probably also an argument to be made for not having to use any cleaner, such as soap or a specialty product whatsoever, and that water might be just might be sufficient, and that's true. The one thing I would say though is that things like soaps act as a surfactant, so it will help you get the grime off of some of the components. So there it is after spraying it down for a while. You can see obviously there's drainage holes at the bottom, there's drainage holes all along the side, so it's not going to retain a bunch of water. But definitely hard to focus through there. There's a bit of slime on the bottom still. I'm going to spray that a little bit more, but that'll be for me to do later. Now for the fan, obviously you don't want to smash it against the cooling fins, so just be careful while you're putting it in so that it goes down straight and doesn't damage the condenser unit. And obviously be careful with the wiring because they do not give you much for additional wiring in these things. It's a good idea to wear gloves when you're working with the sheet metal. Obviously it can be sharp in certain locations. And then the other thing to be cognizant of is that the top should overlap the bottom such that if it rains, the rain will go down the outside and not have a tendency to go inside the unit. Throw it back in fast motion. I'm going to take the 7 or 8 screws and reinstall the fan back onto the air conditioning unit. The other thing you're going to want to look for when you put the top back on is to ensure that all the screw holes line up. Now I did take the side off just to inspect the electrical components. I wanted to make sure that none of the electrical components were wet before I started turning the power back on to the unit. So I'm going to do everything in reverse order here. I'm going to put the disconnect plug back into the disconnect box. Then I'm going to go inside, turn the power on to the air conditioner and the furnace, and then reset the thermostat to the correct temperature, which will obviously make the air conditioning unit turn on right away. I didn't really do anything to dry the air conditioner. I found that by the time I put all the screws back in, put all the tools and equipment away, the air conditioning unit was pretty dry anyway. It was just a little bit damp. As soon as the thermostat got set back to the regular temperature, the air conditioning unit obviously turned back on because it's summer and hot. It's a bit difficult to hand on heart say there's more air coming up through the unit. I perceive there to be more using a simple hand test. One thing that I can say for certain is that the air coming up through the air conditioner condensing unit is much cooler now that the sides are actually free of all that debris. The actual cleaning of the unit shouldn't take any more than 30 minutes, and it took about 30 minutes just for me to get all my tools pulled out and put away. So you're looking at about an hour to an hour and a half to clean the condensing unit, and depending on how dirty it is, it could actually increase the efficiency of the condensing unit and decrease stress on the fan. Anyway, thanks for checking out my video. Don't forget to like and subscribe.